afternoon. This is Rubbin Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Buchan. And of course, we're going to kick off the conversation today talking about children and their rights and all of the things that we can find out about that situation. I have here with me two very special guests who will help me dissect this issue. Ife Hionu, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
And of course, Mr. Kenzua, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
We're talking child rights, child abuse, most things around children. That conversation has been going on for a very long time, especially in Nigeria. With democracy, let's just look at this window now with the last 20 years. Have you seen an improvement in sort of the way children are handled? I mean, we still drive around the streets and see children out of school. I think we probably have the highest out of school rates around the world. We hear stories like that. Are you seeing any progress at all in that space?
Truthfully, because I wouldn't say I see progress, not because no effort is made. You know, effort is made, but the child rights thing or abuse or violence then is kind of a multidimensional. You know, it's like you try to look at it from this perspective, and this other angle appears to water down whatever you are doing or whatever effort you make. You know, because if you follow statistics, which lately I'm not so keen to follow, you know, because I live here, you know,
and you see
I'm aware of the reality. We see them everywhere. You know, instead, the records show that the number of children on the streets, the number of children abused, the number of children who don't have access to their rights is actually on the increase. You know,
yeah.
It's on the increase.
What do you think we're doing wrong?
I think there are a number of things, if I dare say a lot of things, not being done correctly. First and foremost, we don't even have, I think, UN statistics have it that 47% of children under the age of 5 are not even registered at all. So how do you begin to trace the abuse? They're not registered anywhere. People just have babies, births, exactly. People just have babies, and those children are not even registered. So how do you begin to monitor abuse amongst those children? So that's a big, big problem that we have, first and foremost. The awareness, I must say, is a little better than it was before. I mean, many years back when we were growing up, there was nothing about abuse. You didn't hear anything about abuse. Nigeria enacted the UN Child Rights Act in 2003. Having said so, how many people are aware of that? I'm just privileged to know that because of the work I do. But people don't even know that. People don't have access to any information. If you're being abused, what translates to abuse first and foremost. We have all kinds of cultural issues that keep us from noticing what might be abuse elsewhere. Societal issues. So there's so much that is going on that makes it impossible, or I guess I shouldn't use the word impossible because all things are possible, but makes it difficult for us to begin to address the issues of child abuse in our environment. Yeah.
There's something you touched on there which I want both of you to sort of help us understand is what actually constitutes abuse, because you talked about cultural issues there, and for us, scolding a child, spanking a child, you know, things like that. There's a lot of conversation. The conversation is always ongoing about what you can do with a child, with punishment, with bringing up that child, and why it should be accepted. Where does abuse now come in, and why is it? Do you think culturally here it would be possible at some point to enforce some of those rights?
Okay, one of the schools we went to first week of this month, you know, we got the skills to teach children about violence. So, and the children are always eager to know about flogging or caning.
Yeah.
They would also ask me, is it proper for our teachers to flog us? And the last question, I was like, if you don't want your teachers to flog you, don't go against the school rules. They all murmured, like, no, and they shouted. No, but like you asked, truth is, it's just a thin line between discipline and punishment. Like we tell them when we go, there is room for discipline, you know. But then, different people, different opinion. How do you discipline? What approach?
Yeah.
When would it become an abuse? And according to the definition of violence against children or child abuse, we have whatever leaves the child with a scar. Now, if we're talking about physical abuse, the scar, the bruise, the burns, the hurt,
Obvious.
Yeah.
that automatically becomes an abuse. So whatever discipline you want to mete out to a child, you must be careful as to not leave that child with any form of physical scar. That's if we're talking about physical abuse. Because once that is done, like we see from the papers, it's all over the news.
There are stories every day.
Exactly. You know, you see parents who would use hot coal on their children, telling you, yeah, they stole my money, they've been stealing, I want them to stop. That's no longer discipline. Rather, we see abuse, we see punishment.
Yeah. But it could also be mental, isn't it?
It can be emotional, it can be psychological, and those are very difficult to, or more difficult to identify than the physical abuse.
You can see it.
You can see it, and it's just the same with women who are abused also. Yeah. It's, you know, talking about defining abuse, there's some things that are clearly abuse in any environment. And like she said, if a child is hit, you're beating a child and you inflict injury on the child, that's clearly abuse. I believe very firmly in the word of God that says, spare the rod, spoil the child. We cannot ape what's happening in the West. The Western society largely has broken down because children cannot even be talked to at all. Yeah. And I don't think we should go that way. Totally. You can't take away the rights of parents. Parents must have rights, must be able to talk to their children, must be able to discipline their children. Now, there's some gray areas. The example of female genital mutilation, that's abuse. You know, in an instance where a child is selling on the streets, child labor, that's abuse. Every child has a right to education, to being a child and not having the responsibility of being on the streets and vulnerable to adults who are looking for people to prey on, you know. So those are clearly areas where people are abused. There's some more subtle areas. How far do you go when you're beating a child, you know, to consider it abuse? In the West, hitting a child is being abusive, but I believe that you can correct a child by smacking a child. Now, when you slap a child on the face, hit the child in places when you're angry, you know, you want to vent your anger on this child and hurt the child sufficiently. We heard the story recently of a child who came back from school late and the mom went on to burn her genitals, obviously because she probably thought she was out there with a boy or something. Yeah. Now, that's clearly abuse, and people like that must be brought to book. They must be held responsible.
Yeah.